What can't you do at Geico.com? I mean, it's all right there at your fingertips. Want to see if you can save money on your car insurance? You've come to the right place. Want to pay your bill online? Done. Want to order a comfy pair of walking shoes? All right, you got me there.
He still caught at least 3 passes in every game last year with just the absolute atrocity they had at quarterback. With all due respect. Probably can't even say it. I mean,
no, calling them an atrocity is respect, Nate, because it could be much worse.
You in the 06010 focus. The most popular fantasy podcast show. Big Valid, Zach Berry, Bob Taylor, ESPN. What are you doing with these guys? No wonder they won the podcast awards all around the world. Let's put it on the board.
welcome to the Fantasy Focus Football Podcast. Nate Ravitz, Matthew Berry, Stefania Bell, all here in studio.
Yep.
Coming up on today's show, Stefania is going to give us the latest injury updates on Ben Roethlisberger, Jamal Charles, and some lesser-known players that people have asked about. So we've got that coming up. Matthew, we did our first of the daily shows.
Correct.
On Tuesday.
That's right. And America is still with us.
And what's interesting is that all of a sudden our celebrity friends are coming out of the woodwork.
Yes.
Right?
You talk about Showtime Eric Young?
Showtime Eric Young. I got a personal email from Jesse Williams yesterday.
Oh, Dr. PPR.
Of course, E.A. Anthony, you know,
yes.
we lit him up on yesterday's show.
We are really loose with the term celebrity.
Well,
with all due respect.
Where you at, Seth Meyers?
Yeah,
have you come back yet? Come back home,
exactly.
Seth. So anyway, it felt good.
Yeah, we've gotten a lot. Scott Porter from Friday Night Lights.
Okay.
And I believe Hearts of Dixie.
Has he been on the show?
He has never been on the show, but he's a huge fan.
Oh, okay.
And we follow each other on Twitter. He wants on.
All right.
He wants to come on the show. He wants to be in the Man's League. He's a big fan.
We can
Scott
make that
Porter.
happen.
So yeah, we should make that happen.
You know, Matt Williamson of the Football Today podcast wants in on the Man's League as well.
Okay. That could be a funny bet. We could figure out some ransom he has to pay, like something that he has to give up from the Football Today podcast in order to do this.
Ross Tucker.
I'll tell you what they'd give up. They'd give up the Geico Fantasy Minute. They'll give it right back to you.
What if he has to own? What if he has to not share you with us? Or wait, isn't somebody else producing his show this year?
No. I kept Football Today as well.
Of course,
yeah. New guy Drew won't be taking that.
Yeah, you couldn't let go of your first love.
Right, of course. If he gave up Football Today, Nate, then how would he steer all the good interviews to Football Today?
Yeah, I don't know how that would happen.
Yeah, exactly. Well, we'll see about that. I had this idea about the Man's League. That maybe we do we've talked about this before, but now that we have, some celebrity friends.
Yep.
And E.A. Anthony.
Yep.
Maybe we do a celebrity pro-am version of the Man's League. Maybe we do, if it's 16 teams, maybe we do 8 celebs, 8 fans.
Well, it would certainly give the interviews a 50% chance of being more interesting.
Correct. Exactly. That's part of the thought there.
Yeah.
And also it would make it easier on selecting.
Yeah.
Because now there's only 8 spots.
So we would hustle less.
We would hustle less. The downside is there's 8 less listeners that get in.
Yeah.
So I guess that puts me in the celebrity bracket. I like it.
Ooh,
I like it a lot.
I like it with Pod. Hey, Broncos fan Sam from Austin, Texas wrote in, how could you let Stefania within 500 miles of Peyton Manning? He said 4 neck surgeries, and ESPN lets her go to Broncos training camp, all caps. Thanks for ruining the Broncos season months ago.
And while I was there, I shook hands with Willis McGahee. I actually physically touched him. I spoke to Sean Moreno and Demarius Thomas, so, the whole team's going
There you
down.
go.
Luckily,
Eric Decker and Ronnie Hillman. There you go. That's what you just learned about when you need who you're drafting from the Broncos this year.
Luckily, Willis McGahee and Demarius Thomas have never really had injury problems before, so they should be able to hold up well to the curse. It shouldn't be an issue. But you know what, Denver? That's what you get for turning your back on Tim Tebow. You have to expect bad karma coming your way.
Oh, wow.
Spoken like a Jets fan.
Spoken like an ESPN employee, frankly.
Do you think it's smart to cross Tim Tebow?
I don't think it's smart to let Stefania anywhere near you. We're contractually obligated to have her in studio with us, but I don't think that... Remember, people forget this. Stefania went to Colts camp last year.
Yep.
Peyton hid from me. I never saw him.
Whatever, but you were within radius. You were within the radius of him. You talked to Dallas Clark.
I did.
You talked to a lot of the Colts. Lost season for them.
They didn't invite me back.
Thank you. The Colts finally learned.
They should. They're like the #1 pick in the draft.
They're like, yeah, exactly. You're not getting anywhere near Andrew Luck. He's a franchise.
About the upside I brought. They got Andrew Luck. That's what they think.
Right.
This is clearly part of ESPN's plan, Matthew. Did you figure this out?
Right. What?
That she's going to curse us, and they can bring in people with more upside, which is basically people.
Which is, I was just going to say, which is anyone. Yeah. So we get the #1 pick in the podcast draft next year?
Basically.
No, I do.
Yeah,
I'll
she
be
does.
the only one left.
Yeah, she'll be the only one left.
I buy that theory except for one big problem. We've been last every year.
Rewind. Fantasy news from the National Football League. This is the Instant Replay.
I saw you guys tweeting at each other about this last night. Ben Roethlisberger says he has a, quote, little torn rotator cuff.
Yeah. It's one of those things. Yeah, exactly. One of the things when someone says, I have a little groin tear. No, there's no such thing as a little groin tear.
Yep.
Wow.
Little is not a word that I use to describe a rotator cuff injury. But then again, I don't have 8 billion degrees the way Stephania Bell does.
Yep.
Yeah, Ben doesn't either.
Right.
But to be fair to Ben, there are smaller or less significant cuff tears. I think the important thing is this was not a traumatic cuff tear. Sometimes people wonder about like a lineman, for example, who tears a cuff and then they're out and they have to repair it. That's when the tendon comes completely away from the bone. They have to re-anchor it, automatic surgery. But throwers, and you guys know this from, we talk about it all the time, and between more in baseball, but baseball and football, they get, wear and tear. They get fraying. They get problems, like stringiness in their rotator cuff from this repeated motion, hundreds, thousands of times over the course of their career. So whatever happened in November to flare it up, they probably looked, they saw that he had evidence of this, what they call a partial tear, and he clearly didn't miss a beat, right? He played. The biggest issue we were worried about last fall was his ankle, and had it been significant enough to require an intervention, that would have happened in the off season. Didn't happen. So this is something that he will play through, and could it get worse? Sure. It could continue to degenerate slowly. You can get that. It could stay exactly the same. It could be something that has to be addressed in the future. But right now, it's not much more than something to talk about.
It's interesting. A couple of things. First off, my Twitter followers pointed this out, and it's very true. No one loves telling you how hurt he is more than Big Ben Roethlisberger.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like, it's always like, oh, I'm so hurt. But I'm going to go out there and give it a go.
Right.
It's weird. Why would you let people know about this?
Right.
If it's no big deal and you're not worried about it, why would you let defenses know, oh, hey, this is bugging me a little bit?
Well, maybe his ankle's still bothering him and he wants to kind of redirect their anger. It's something that's actually fine.
Maybe. It's interesting.
First game of the season against Peyton Manning.
What do you think Ben Roethlisberger does this year? We were talking about this a little bit. Last night, Tim Hasselbeck and myself, Stefania, Robert Flores, taped the first Fantasy Football Now preseason special. It's going to air this Sunday.
Speaking of Robert Flores, he wants on the show, too. Ran into him yesterday.
Oh, okay, yeah. We should have RoFlo on. So Sunday, little bit of housekeeping. This Sunday morning, 11 a.m. Eastern, ESPN 2, first preseason special of Fantasy Football Now. So Tim and I were talking about Roethlisberger because this news broke just before we were ready to tape it. And, there's sort of questions at the running game there, obviously, with no Mendenhall. Todd Haley, now the offense coordinator at Pittsburgh. We've seen him obviously have success. Kurt Warner back in the day in Arizona with quarterback. So are you buying this? Let's assume Mike Wallace is back in camp and everything. Everything's fine there, that they have Brown and Wallace. But Roethlisberger's never been a great fantasy quarterback. He's currently going, I found this shocking, in the 9th round, the same round as Robert Griffin III. I think that speaks more to RG3 than it does to Ben. But I don't know. I'm curious as to your thoughts on Big Ben. I'm not all excited about him. I'm sort of not.
I mean, we talked about this a little bit yesterday, and I was like, if you're going to wait on quarterback, that's an interesting way to go. I think he's been a little bit better than you're giving him credit for as a fantasy player. He's never been an elite guy, but he did have a season with the 32 touchdowns, and obviously he had seasons where he missed games.
Right, over 4,000 yards last year and in an 09.
Yeah. I think it's a little high for me, but if you haven't drafted a quarterback to that point, I think that gets into you don't want to mess around territory. Like if you look at the average draft position, Roethlisberger 81, Griffin 82, Schaub 90.
Right.
I don't want to miss on one of those guys if I've waited to that point.
Wouldn't you rather at that point, though, to me, I would rather at that point, I would rather go for RG3. I would rather go for the upside of RG3 and then maybe, next round or two. I like Carson Palmer a lot this year.
I know you do. Which, I mean,
I don't know
it's a sign of the end of times that you like Carson Palmer.
Factually correct, Nate. But I don't know that there's a huge difference, at least in my opinion, between Schaub and Roethlisberger and, say, like Joe Flacco.
Oh, I think you're wrong. I think and that's just because you're still wacko for Flacco.
A little bit. I don't think in terms of drafting, I would rather the upside of Robert Griffin III and then have a guy like Flacco as my backup in case RG3 does not turn out to be what we hope he will be.
You're in pretty rough shape if you have Joe Flacco in a 10-team league. I think you're in very rough shape.
Assuming Roethlisberger and Schaub are gone?
You're in assuming whatever. Right. If you're playing Joe Flacco on a regular basis in a 10-team league, and you're playing against people that have Rodgers, Breeze, Brady, to your point, the manifesto about winning weeks, Absolutely. You're going to lose that position almost every week.
No question about it. You and I do not recommend this strategy. You and I have said, hey, get a quarterback early. I'm with you. But we're saying that worst case scenario. What I'm saying is that if you've decided to wait on quarterback, and you're down there, and one of those three guys is sitting there, Schaub, Roethlisberger, RG3. What I am saying is I would rather roll the dice on RG3 because of those three guys, to me, he's got the best shot of being something
I don't have any issue with that.
Right.
But don't get – I think if you do that, you have to come right back with Schaub or Cutler, somebody with more upside than Flacco. Joe Flacco had 2 games all of last year with more than 15 fantasy points. Mm-hmm. Eli Manning. So I'm not even picking one of the ultra-elite guys, right? Mm-hmm. Eli Manning had 10. You're getting crushed at that position if you have Joe Flacco in a 10-team league.
I think Flacco's going to have that's fair. And by the way, I have Cutler, Schaub, and Roethlisberger all ranked ahead of Flacco. Yeah. Having said that, I kind of like Joe Flacco. I don't think he's terrible. Okay. I don't think he's terrible. I think he had a bad year last year. I think he will be better. I think he will be better this year. I think another year of Torrey Smith. He missed on a lot of deep throws to Torrey Smith that I think he would connect on this year.
According to the Kansas City Star, Stefani, Jamal Charles says he feels like he got his, quote, mojo back. Yep. I don't think he means MJD. He says, I feel good. I feel like I got my mojo back. I feel happy. I feel comfortable out there. I'm ready to go. All I need to do is go on the Fantasy Focus Football podcast again, and I'll be fine.
Really? Direct quote?
Exact quote.
Outstanding. Well, I'm not surprised because, let's face it, Jamal Charles has been rehabbing for really almost an entire year. He's been so anxious to get back out on the field. You think about guys we're looking at like Adrian Peterson who are he's not working with the team, but he's doing drills and he's getting close. Jamal Charles had another few months on top of that. So very anxious to get back. He's been doing everything that he's been allowed to do, and he's been cleared for everything since the start of camp. I think the only thing missing is he's got to get back in the game. You know, he'll get preseason action. He'll see what it feels like to take a hit. He'll see what it feels like to run against guys. And, you know, I like the fact that he had a surgery earlier. He's had more time, and he's going to get significant action in the preseason. I still say, you know, you got to temper your expectations a bit because history shows us that guys don't have the same year the first year back. But of all the ACL guys coming back, I feel the most confident about him in terms of where he's at recovery-wise.
He's 10th in ESPN's running back rankings. He's 9th, Matthew, in your rankings. Stefania, if I were drafting, because I think I actually did a mock draft yesterday, for me he's the 6th running back. Am I crazy?
No.
Mock draft hopper.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Sure. Oh, yeah, no. You know it.
So who do you have? He's behind?
Well, there's the obvious 4, right? Rice, Foster, McCoy, and MJD. Mm-hmm. You know, then you have, depending on people's individual lists, obviously, but you have Chris Johnson, Forte, Ryan Matthews. I would take Chris Johnson ahead of him and none of the other guys.
You hate Matt Forte.
No, I just,
you do.
Yeah, I would put Matt Forte ahead of him, but other than that, I don't have a problem with him going in that round. No, not crazy at all. Right? Because you've got to know. Like he's not what was he last year? Number 2?
2 or 3.
Yeah. So he has to have a down tick because you don't know what the expectation is. We're not worried about re-injury, but he's had a long time to come back. I'm not particularly worried about re-injury. What you're concerned about is can he be as productive? They've got Peyton Hillis there too, who's not exactly the picture of health, and Jamal Charles still going to be the main guy we all believe, but we just don't know what that looks like.
Matthew, do you see Peyton Hillis as a negative to Jamal Charles's value?
I do not.
I agree 100%.
Do not at all.
I don't understand that argument.
Yeah, the best year of Jamal Charles's career, Thomas Jones was there and
playing a lot.
And Voltron. It's the same argument with Matt Forte. Jamal Charles's game is not goal line carries.
Right.
Is not 25 carries a game.
It's not even 25 touches a game.
Right. Exactly. Jamal Charles's game is the fact that he is at any point
capable of
running off a 75-yard run.
And actually,
But that's the concern, by the way, coming off the ACL is does he still have that same burst?
Right.
And I think I actually like to me, it's can he make those initial dodges and darts and get out of that? Because then once he goes, that I'm not worried about him having. The speed will be there. I'm not worried about that, especially given the amount of time that he's had. The thing is, how does he function? And just being in the game. There's always this little adjustment when they come back. There's a little hesitation. There's getting that confidence. But he's going to have a chance to test all that sooner than most other guys.
So there you go. You've got him 9th. I think I'd have him 6th. I think we're both probably higher on him than what typically other people are, from what I've seen.
But here's a question.
Okay.
I would rather, this is reflected in my rankings, but who would you rather have? Jamal Charles coming off of an injury, or a guy like Darren McFadden who is quote-unquote healthy going into the year?
Jamal Charles. No argument. No discussion.
I agree with you. There are people that would disagree with us. There are people that would disagree with us.
Okay. Well, and there's we're not going to know who's right till the end of the year, but
we're right.
Jamal Charles has never given any indication that he's going to miss games here and there. He had a big injury in college. He had this big injury here. But McFadden,
has yet to put together a full season.
Yeah.
And the injuries that McFadden has are these toe, foot, hamstring injuries. Now this more serious foot injury on top of the toe things that he's had. You just worry. And he's well aware of it. He's well aware of the label, and he's like, look, I'm doing the best I can. But that's not, to me, it's too risky when you have that pattern over 3 years in a row.
The only thing I'll say about it is my stance of taking Charles at 6 is basically okay, we don't know anything, but I'm going to make a gut call here about a guy that I think has a chance to be the best guy.
Right.
Which I don't feel about, say, Ryan Matthews and Matt Forte. And McFadden owners could be saying the same thing. They could be like, you know what, between him, Forte, Ryan Matthews, I don't feel great about any of these guys. I'm going to take the guy that could be number 1 at the end of the year. I think that's the philosophy, and I don't have a problem with that.
That is. By the way, I disagree on that statement. I understand the theory. I actually think both Forte and especially Matthews could be number 1. I think Forte's safer than Matthews, but Matthews could easily be the number 1 player in fantasy at the end of the year, at least the number 1 fantasy running back. If he stays healthy all 16 games and the Chargers have the kind of year that we've seen from them, he gets all the touchdowns that Tolbert got. I mean, if everything goes right for Ryan Matthews and Phillip Rivers is back to being Phillip Rivers and Gates stays healthy the whole year and they've got that offense, absolutely, of course Ryan Matthews could be number 1. I don't think that happens. That's reflected by rankings. I have him as my number 6 running back. Yeah. I don't think he plays all 16 games. I think he's going to miss a couple here and there.
Yep.
And I think somebody will vulture touchdowns from Matthews. Norv tends to do that, whether it's Hester or somebody. But my point is that could happen with Ryan Matthews.
And I just think running back is it's the riskiest position because of the contact. It's the most unpredictable because look at how we ranked Jamal Charles last year, and then he was done for the season on one blow. And that to me, when you have a guy who then presents this significant...
Is that a hint, Pod Vader?
You telling me to keep quiet. But when you have a guy with the history that Darren McFadden does, to me, it comes down to the value. What you're going to have to invest to buy him early, where he's going to go, to me, is not worth it.
Well, and this goes to what we've been saying all along, or at least I have been, which is get a quarterback early. I want a sure thing. I want Brady, I want Rodgers, I want Breeze. I want something that I know because of this, and there will be guys that will pop during the year. There will be Marshawn Lynch's and DeMarco Murray's and Fred Jackson's this year. Guys that you can get in the middle rounds that are going to pop.
And by the way, DeMarco Murray, Felix Jones failed his condition.
We talked about that.
So just, you can't. He was injured anyway and had surgery in the off season, and then this.
What can't you do at Geico.com? I mean, it's all right there at your fingertips. Want to see if you could save money on your car insurance? You've come to the right place. Want to pay your bill online? Done. Want to order a comfy pair of walking shoes? All right, you got me there.
All right, here we go.
Fantasy Focus at ESPNradio.com.
If you need anything else, let me know.
Fantasy Focus at ESPNradio.com. Brr.
Tyler from Seattle writes, Steffi, bad news. I'm hoping for some good news here. How does Sidney Rice look? If he stays healthy and Seattle's QB can get him the ball, what are your expectations for him this season?
Well, if he stays healthy is the most important part of that sentence, because this is a guy who had shoulder problems, the first shoulder while he was at Minnesota, then the second shoulder while at Seattle, ended up having both of them repaired, the labrum repaired on both sides in the off season, and then 2 concussions late in the season last year when he was playing. So right now, they're just handling him with kid gloves, no contact whatsoever. They even gave him a special jersey to wear, kind of like the quarterback, so he wouldn't be touched. He can do drills. They're going to ease him back in. He may not get on the field during the preseason, which concerns me as a fantasy owner, because I'm not going to get to see anything.
Sure.
They're obviously bringing him back slow. And I get why they want to avoid the unnecessary, because he is coming off these procedures, but remember when he had the hip surgery and came back, and it was sort of touch and go.
Yeah.
He was better, but he wasn't. He had some good moments, not so good. I'm not all in here just yet.
Matthew, he's going as the 39th receiver in drafts, as a 12th round pick, and everything Stefani has just said is totally valid and reasons to stay away from him. Having said that, if I were to pick a receiver who's going currently outside the top 30 to pull a Braylon Edwards a few years ago and have 16 touchdowns or whatever it was, it might be Sidney Rice. He's got that kind of talent.
He does. If I was going to pick one outside the top 30,
yeah.
I mean, Kenny Britt's going 31.
Yeah, I mean, Britt's at 31. That's sort of the obvious call.
And I'll give you another one.
Randy Moss?
Well, no, I mean, that's sort of interesting. But, sure, if Randy Moss has one more season in him.
Yeah.
But how about Reggie Wayne at 36 among wide receivers?
I love that.
Yeah.
I mean, I would love to
never
get him
been
there.
a huge Reggie Wayne guy, but that's way too low. And I get he's Andrew Luck, but everyone's saying Andrew Luck is going to be the most pro-ready quarterback ever to come out.
Yeah.
He's not going to be terrible. Andrew Luck is not going to be terrible. He may not be Peyton Manning from 2 years ago, but he's not going to be terrible. And Reggie Wayne's still going to be the number 1 wide receiver, and this is a team that is still going to throw.
He still caught at least 3 passes in every game last year, with just the absolute atrocity they had at quarterback last season. Yeah. With all due respect.
Yeah.
Probably can't even say it. I mean,
no, honestly, look, calling them an atrocity is respect, Nate, because it could be much worse.
But I mean, his yards per catch average was actually a 3-year high. The touchdowns weren't there and the volume wasn't there, but yeah.
Again, for somebody that you drafted in the 3rd round, you weren't happy with Reggie Wayne last year, but for somebody that's going 36th in the 11th round,
let's play a Reggie Wayne name game.
I like it.
There may be a potential reverse Stefania curse. He has injury concerns. We talked about with Stefania.
Don't get me started.
Stefania's awesome.
Frank Gore, Jonathan Stewart, Pat Orton, Steve Breston, Tony Romo, MJD, Willis McGahee, Gray Rice, Ryan Grant, Michael Crabtree, Jermichael Finley, Marcus Colston, Ben Watson, Javid Best, Kenny Britt, Jeremy Macklin, Steve Smith, Rex Gross, Alex Smith,
Stefania's beloved Braylon Edwards.
No longer beloved. Not with my team. Not with my team. He has a new home.
All right, Matthew. Each of these players, and Stefania, you too. Each of these players. By the way, Reggie Wayne from.
To you.
Each of these players that I'm going to mention is currently going ahead of Reggie Wayne.
Okay.
In average draft position. Reggie Wayne or Anquan Boldin.
Wayne.
I think it's Wayne, not close.
I think it's Wayne. I do think it's close, and I would rather Bolden in a PPR. But okay.
Reggie Wayne or Santonio Holmes?
Wayne.
I
just
agree.
hate Holmes.
Reggie Wayne or Matthews' beloved, and it'll be interesting to see if he's still beloved now that he's on his team,
exactly.
Pierre Garçon.
Oh, I wasn't thinking
Garçon.
I'd rather have Reggie Wayne. Who are you thinking, Stefani?
I was thinking Santana Moss.
Moss is actually going below.
But I just beloved. So.
Oh, yeah, well, he is beloved.
Yeah, but I'm going with Wayne.
Hey, Nate.
Reggie Wayne or Robert Meacham?
How strongly do you feel about Reggie Wayne versus Pierre Garçon? Because I feel pretty strongly Pierre Garçon's going to have a better
I feel
year.
just fine about it, my friend.
Really? Because I say Pierre Garçon has a better fantasy season than Reggie Wayne.
More fantasy points?
More fantasy points.
I say Reggie Wayne has more fantasy points.
Put it on the board!
Put it on the board.
Reggie Wayne or Robert Meacham?
Wayne.
Wayne.
I agree. Malcolm Floyd?
Wayne.
I agree. So we like him a lot better.
Yeah.
Snag him. You know, he's going as a 11th round pick.
Wow.
9th round. Yeah, 9th round. I think that's about right. Reggie Wayne or Eric Decker?
Decker.
Yeah, so much.
Yeah,
probably so much more upside with Decker.
Yeah,
but
probably going Decker.
it's close, just because of Decker's injury issues.
I'm not as concerned about that. Well, Stefania just was in Denver.
I didn't shake his hand. Didn't speak to him
you were
directly.
in the presence.
I know. But
The question is how much curse do you have left? I mean, because when you were in Indianapolis, just your aura there crushed an entire franchise.
I forgot to take the curse oil drops. With
Right.
James from New York says, Dear Stefania, what's going on with Ryan Williams? I remember there being a decent amount of hype surrounding him during last year's preseason before he got hurt. What's his current status, and if healthy, could you see him as a potential sleeper going into this year?
I definitely could see him as a sleeper going in this year, and there's hype in Arizona. I think that at least amongst the coaching staff and the people who are watching him all the time, they're very excited about this guy. Remember, he tore his patellar tendon. To relate it, that's the same injury that Cadillac Williams had, and you worry about how that affects a guy's explosiveness or power. He has the advantage of being very young, so you'd like to think he comes back better from this. And he was doing 11-on-11 drills in June, minicamp. A while back, there was a thought that Ryan Williams might not be ready to start the season, might have to miss the first 2 or 3 games. They're now talking like he could potentially play a few snaps in this weekend's Hall of Fame game, their preseason opener. So I think now he's on track to start the season, and with Beanie Wells being on the active PUP list coming off of his knee scope, and not necessarily being the favorite guy amongst the coaching staff, and they've already made that known, I think
it's not just the coaching staff. Well, fantasy community, it's pretty much everyone except the Beanie Wells household. Yep.
I think that Ryan Williams really could make a splash down there. Now, they're going to be careful with him. You don't want to throw a guy in and have him take all the snaps up front, but they're going to really go by how he feels. In fact, if he doesn't play any snaps this weekend, it's because he says he's not quite ready to do it. They really want to bring him in gradually and as he's ready, but right now he raised himself 85 to 90%.
And that injury happened in, like, June, right?
It happened last summer. It was early. It was before anything major started.
Matthew, he's going as a 14th round pick. Here's the cluster of running backs around him: Bernard Scott, Kevin Smith, Mike Tolbert, Nico LaShore, Mike Goodson, Brandon Jacobs. I mean, I like him better than most of those guys.
Yeah, Kevin
LaShore,
Smith,
by the way, coming off his own big injury, and as we know, going to miss a couple games to start the season.
Yeah, I like the only guy that you might consider ahead of Williams there would be Kevin Smith. But both Williams and Kevin Smith could very easily be the starting running back on a decent offense.
Yeah. The problem with Kevin Smith is just like, sadly, if you're replacing wagers on guys who get hurt mid-game, he'd be at the top of the list. I mean, it happened, 3-4 times last year?
Brutal.
So he killed a lot of fantasy owners last year.
Yes, he did. Obviously, Detroit, better team than Arizona.
Smitty in Indy says, love the show. I have to say it's absolutely the best podcast I've ever listened to.
Wow.
I've never actually heard another podcast
there you
before.
Go.
But I think you would do okay against another one if I did.
Let's not risk that, though. Let's go with your gut instinct there, brother.
Unless it was a podcast about random penguin facts. That would rock.
By the way, keep listening. There's a very good chance that happens on this show.
He says, anyways, I want to get clarification on your rankings. I'm fairly certain that when you do your rankings, you're doing them with ESPN standard scoring, which is non-PPR. From what I've heard, PPR is exploding in popularity and is getting to be as popular, if not more popular, than the standard scoring system. Let me just address this for a minute, Matthew.
Okay.
PPR is growing. It is a growing segment. It is nowhere close to the non-PPR format as of yet. Not even in, even if we exclude all the default leagues and just go with the custom leagues, it's still not the majority. But it is increasing.
Right.
And that's why we offer on our website PPR rankings.
Correct.
And cheat sheets and all that.
And maybe we'll have some Dr. PPR.
Oh, that could be.
That could be fun. Let's have him on in the preseason. But the thing is, yeah, we get that all the time. It's like, I'll mention 10-team leagues. I'm like, dude, everyone's playing 12-team leagues. Also not true.
Yes.
The most popular, we are concerned with ESPN.com. That's the only data we have access to. We have friends at other places, and we feel fairly confident that it's similar. But at ESPN.com, we can tell you definitively, 10-team leagues are by far the most popular.
And again, even if you cut out all of the standard ones, all of the default ones, and
the ones that we set up, right.
Just go with the customs. It's not by far, but it is still the most popular by a healthy margin. Right. So, but I think we pretty regularly address deeper leagues, Matthew, and we address PPR. So he says, while we're at it, how about a Darren Sproles PPR name game?
Okay.
He said, would he be worth a reach at the end of round 2, beginning of round 3, over Steven Jackson, Fred Jackson, Frank Gore, Ahmad Bradshaw, Roy Halou, Michael Turner?
I don't mind him going around there. I probably wouldn't do it, but I don't mind it in a PPR.
I'm shocked. I think he's a no-doubt first-round pick in a PPR league. I don't mind him in the beginning of the third round in a standard league, frankly. It's
right.
A little high. I'm going to look and see what our ESPN PPR rankings are for Sproles. We have him, let's see here. Hang on a second. Can I get some Looking for Darren Sproles music?
You can.
Wow.
While you're doing
20th
that.
running back? Okay, we're crazy. That's insane. While I'm doing that, what?
I was just going to say there are 18 species of penguin in the world. While some are widespread and thriving, 13 of them have declining populations, 5 of them considered endangered and facing possible extinction if strong protection and conservation are not taken. By the way, the light front and dark back coloration of classic penguin plumage is called countershading, and it provides superb camouflage from above and below to protect penguins in the water.
I'd like to add there, Matthew.
Yeah.
That although penguins are native to the southern hemisphere,
right,
they are not only found in cold climates such as Antarctica. In fact, only a few species of penguin live so far south.
Depending on the species, Pod, a wild penguin can live 15 to 20 years. During that time, they spend up to 75% of their lives at sea.
I just found an error in our rankings.
Okay.
He's not 20th in our PPR rankings.
Okay, that makes more sense.
That is an error, and that will be corrected. By the time you hear this podcast, I will make sure that happens. Okay. I'm pulling up our PPR cheat sheet to see if that also has the typo. Let's see.
While you're doing that, Nate, some prehistoric species attained enormous sizes, becoming as tall or as heavy as an adult human.
According to our PPR cheat sheet, Darren Sproles is the number 7 running back, 12th overall.
Okay.
So I said no-brainer first-round pick. Our consensus is barely outside the first round.
Right.
So, yes, you take him ahead of all those guys. I say. You're still not sure?
Well, you read through a whole long list of
Steven Jackson, Fred Jackson, Frank Gore, Sonia, Ahmad Bradshaw, Roy Halou, Michael Turner.
Like him more
Bear in mind that he outscored every one of those guys in standard scoring last year.
Yes, he did. I like him more than Halou. I like him more than Turner. I like him more than Gore. I like him more than...
Fred Jackson and Steven Jackson are the 2 left.
Steven Jackson would be the one guy that I think I like more. I'm a big Steven Jackson guy this year. I think Steven Jackson's going to have a big year with Jeff Fisher in St. Louis. I think he's going to have a really nice year.
Fair enough. Todd from Dayton, Ohio. Hey guys and gal, which quarterback is most likely to mimic the Matthew Stafford of 2011, late-round pick and top 5 quarterback?
Which?
RG3.
Wait, which first round? What was this?
Which quarterback will mimic what Stafford did last year? A late-round pick that becomes a top 5 quarterback. If you were going to bet on one player to do that.
Assuming that, because I'm not counting RG3 because he's not a late-round pick anymore. I mean, he's going right next to Roethlisberger. He's going ahead of Schaub and Cutler.
So
I'm not counting RG3.
Matt Flynn, Andrew Luck,
Carson Palmer. He's going 20th among quarterbacks. That would be my pick.
So you think he's going to be a top 5?
Well, he doesn't think so. He's being forced to pick one, basically.
Okay.
Right.
But if
of the people that are going very late, who's got the best shot? And I think Carson Palmer, who was, over the second half of last year, was top 10 in the NFL in almost every passing statistic, or top 12 in a few cases. Also threw a lot of interceptions. That was part of the problem. But didn't have Darius Hayward-Bay and Denarius Moore on the field at the same time for all 8 games, learning a new offense. They're going to throw it.
You're going to think this is a homer pick. I swear it's not. Tim Tebow. I mean,
yeah,
that would be the guy that if...
because he'll score points if he gets a chance.
If he gets the job.
Yeah, I mean, if they start off 0-2 and Sanchez throws 7 picks or something, and they're like, oh, the heck with it, let's just go.
Right.
You know, by the way, as a Jets fan, I'm not rooting for this. I wasn't happy with the acquisition.
But no, I buy that.
That would be the guy. Last question here. Brian in Orlando, Florida. With Rashard Mendenhall injured, the door is wide open for the former rushing champion from Gabe the WP's Hebrew school, Isaac Redmond. What can we realistically expect from him this season? Is he a potential 1,000-yard, 8 rushing touchdown guy that can be had around the 7th round, or will Jonathan Dwyer and his pass-first Steelers offense limit his upside?
Yeah, I think Dwyer's the bigger concern there, because we've seen Haley before kind of mix in his running backs. Haley doesn't seem to go with kind of one guy, right? In Kansas City, it would drive us crazy, actually, that he wouldn't that he wouldn't give the ball more to Jamal Charles. So I actually think Dwyer is more of a threat than people realize. So I'd rather have Redmond than Dwyer, but I think in deeper leagues, Dwyer's an interesting name, and I don't think that Redmond has an amazing season as a result of that.
I'm pretty low on Redmond. Stefania, what's the actual story with Mendenhall as far as you can tell?
Well, he's not doing anything yet, and so I think he's going to be a slow to come back guy. I think he's going to be on the PUP list when the season starts for sure. That means 6 weeks out automatically, so somebody's going to get a chance to shine while he's gone. I think he'll make it back this season. I don't think he misses the whole season, but remember his surgery he got injured in week 17, so he's very late on the recovery path.
So we see him in week 8, 9, 10, something like that.
Yeah, probably. I just can't believe, if he's not doing anything in camp right now, I can't see him starting.
Can't see any other outcome other than the PUP list.
Than the PUP, excuse me, yes.
There you go. More fantasy football podcast tomorrow, and great stuff from both of these guys on ESPN.com and the Draft Kit. You can read Matthew's Draft Day Manifesto, his 100 facts. Stefania has injury updates based on every position, so the latest thinking there.
We're doing Sports Nation later today.
Oh, there you go.
Sports Nation.
And please check out Fantasy Football Now, 11 a.m. Eastern. It's a half-hour special.
Right.
It'll be 2 hours once the regular season starts.
Our new time, Sundays at 11 a.m. Eastern.
Correct.
So starts this Sunday, 11 a.m. Eastern, ESPN2, Fantasy Football Now. By the way, Nate, emperor penguin males will incubate their eggs for 2 months in the winter without eating while the females are at sea. During that time, they live off their fat reserves and may lose half their body weight.
Just like humans living off fat reserves.
We didn't win podcast awards for nothing, folks.
Peace out.
The theme song for the Fantasy Focus was created and performed by Eric Hutchinson. Check out more of his music at erichutchinson.com. Thank you for listening to the Fantasy Focus. For more great podcasts, log on to the iTunes Music Store or Pod Center at espnradio.com.
My mum always says hard work never hurt anybody. Good advice as usual. So we worked very hard to make Geico.com very easy. Say you want to report a claim and follow its progress. You can do it all online at Geico.com. Not to mention perhaps saving a tidy sum of money on your car insurance. All it takes is a few clicks. So visit Geico.com today. Oh, and Mum, if you're listening, yes, I did wash behind my ears this morning.